But yes, thumbs up. He's got one over his old club. But there are bigger fish to fry for the Broncos, and it starts next week against the Melbourne Storm. But tonight, plenty of smiles. Full-time, Brisbane 60, South Sydney 14.
Yeah, these Brisbane Broncos flexed their muscles in a dominant second half display. A stretch of 6 unanswered tries running these Rabbitohs ragged. It was really a mismatch on paper, and we probably expected Brisbane's superstar power to be too much for the Bunnies to handle. But most importantly, it puts them back up to 5th on the NRL live ladder and gives their for and against an almighty boost. Cooper Cronk, Kevin Walters and James Graham here as we see very contrasting scenes to what we saw this time last week. A huge disappointment against the Eels, Cooper, and this is the kind of response not only the coach but the club would have been after.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that game where the Broncos are at, because it was 18-all at half-time. The South scored right on the stroke of half-time, and they did all the right things, the Broncos, in the second half. They came out and, you know, good completion rate, they defended well, but just way too much firepower. The Broncos are a team that just need to play some good teams and see if they grind through a 2 or 4 point victory. But they played the opposition that was in front of them. They scored 7 second-half tries. And the most impressive thing you can say is that, you know, they had a good completion rate at 85% and only missed 25 tackles. That's the positive for me out of the Broncos' performance.
Coops, you're right. It's really difficult to know what to make of this result and of the performance, because, look, it was a mismatch, wasn't it? You know, South Sydney are on their knees with their injuries, and you know, you look at the makeup of their bench. Tyrone Munro is on the bench, coming on, playing in the middle. That is the state of affairs. So what do Brisbane take from this game? It is hard to figure that one out. I think, you know, there will be a few issues that Maguire will look out. The play at the end of the second half, that is a situation that you would try and manufacture in training and practice, but there's nothing beats live practice in a real NRL game to know what it's like to defend your line with 1 play to go. They missed their assignment there. They had a kick-off set where they made an error. I know that is a fundamental error, so they'll be looking to fix up those areas. They'll be pleased with the win, but like you said, next week against Melbourne Storm on Thursday, that's where I think we'll get a real glimpse of where this Broncos team are at.
They were on a 5-game winning streak, Kevy, leading into that shock loss to Parramatta. The coach called for patience. He called for the long game. Yes, we know they were against a very different-looking opposition tonight, but what can they build on from here?
Well, I guess their ball control was good tonight, you know, and that's been not so much a problem, but it's something that sort of let them down a little bit, although last week they fixed it up in the second half. They got away to a poor start, but then they fixed it up, whereas tonight it was more flowing in the game. The Selwyn Cobbo try just after half-time, I think, really, you know, smacked South Sydney in the face, and then it was just all Broncos from there, and they got a string of possession, controlled the ball well, kicked well, but they weren't really under too much pressure from a South Sydney side that was depleted. So, but you can only play what's, you know, in front of you. They did a good job tonight. That's all they can do, is play what's in front of them and take the points, because the for and against is could be a huge issue coming into you know, where you finish on the ladder. So yeah, it was a good win, good strong win, and I'm sure good for the confidence as well.
These are nice pictures of Cody Walker and Adam Reynolds. I mean, this is really hard times for the Bunnies.
Yeah, played a lot of football together, these two. You know, Cody Walker obviously got injured. Adam Reynolds played 300 games recently, and he spent a lot of time at South Sydney Rabbitohs, and South Sydney going backwards, and the Brisbane Broncos are looking to play in September. So the thing about the Broncos is it was obvious the way they were controlled and measured to start the game. There was opportunities for their gun players to throw the ball out the back or go for the risky play, and they put the gun in the holster and made the conservative approach about, like, just building momentum. And to be fair, it's probably what they had to do. Like, if they could have scored 20 or 30 points in that first half, but they tried to take the high-end approach and then score the points late, which they did. Yeah. 60-14, they did exactly what they needed to do. But the big acid test is all about Melbourne on Thursday night. Like, where Brisbane are at will all depend on next Thursday, not necessarily what they did to South Sydney's team tonight.
Well, our KFC FLG MVP, as voted on by the fans, it went to the Broncos 5'8", Ezra Mam. And he said it before this game that he's building with this new spine. He wants to narrow the difference between his best and his worst performance. He's trying to perfect his game. Kevy, how did you see his response to what was a disappointing, quiet game from him last week against Para?
Yeah, he was quiet, but these sort of players don't stay quiet for long. You know, they get themselves back in the game, and he's obviously got a lot of talent. Ezra, fast. I think he's playing a more physical game this year with his defence. He seems to, you know, be able to put more into his contact. But he's obviously a quick player and likes to play short sides well, you know, so he's a great asset for the Broncos. And when he gets in this sort of form, he's very hard to stop. Him and Reece Walsh, you know, they're like two bandits at the bank, robbing the bank. They just keep going, and they take as much money as they can get as well. And, you know, that's what they did tonight. They robbed the bank and they took a lot of money home. So it was a great performance, but I agree with Cooper, and I'm sure we all do. Next week's going to be a bigger challenge for the Broncos, and also the Storm, who have been bouncing up and down a little bit this year as well.
But one thing that has alarmed me in this performance from the Broncos is Tyson Smoothie not getting onto the field. So I've got so many questions of why do you rest Payne Haas?
Well,
right?
I think Payne Haas was forced out from the game with a...
Forced out, well, clearly he needed a rest. We saw what happened at the end of the game against Parramatta. Whether he was ill or whether he was rested, that's another story. But you've got a player on the bench. You've got Patrick Carrigan. Yeah, granted, Wilson comes off with a broken arm. He goes back onto the field. What's the point in putting Tyson Smoothie on the bench if you're not going to play him? Like, that game was over at 45 minutes.
He could have got him into the contest. There were some big injuries as well to the forward pack.
But not even to get him into the contest, Laura. To get Patrick Carrigan out of it.
Well, let's talk about our VB hardest working player, and that was Paddy Carrigan. He had to step up. There was Xavier Willison, suffers the forearm injury.
Potential,
broken forearm, and played more minutes than you thought he needed to, perhaps, James Graham.
Yeah, I did. I don't understand this call from the coaching staff of Brisbane. I think you've got to seize that opportunity and recognise that there was an opportunity there to rest your hardest working player. Give that opportunity to some of the other forwards. Extend their game time instead of increasing or keeping Paddy Carrigan as the same, especially once the opposition was starting to fade away. And even again, another opportunity to practice with different players that play out of position that may be out of your hands when it comes to injuries or sin bins. Practice that way, you get the opportunity. For me, I don't see the logic in dragging out the performance from Patrick Carrigan, because we know he's going to put up those numbers.
Yeah, the only thing I can think that he was asked to come off and wanted to stay on. Like, it was a pretty fun game to play in, James. Normally, Paddy's used to like hitting up and getting bashed by four forwards. Well, that wasn't the case though. There was a bit more space there for him. I don't know. I don't disagree with you.
It's one of them. Do you want to stay on, or do you want to see Tyson Smoothie get some game time?
I'd like to see. Yeah, I'd prefer to see Tyson Smoothie get some game time. He's sitting on the bench. And, you know, the rotation of your bench is really important. They got the injury to Xavier Willison, so maybe that sort of, you know, scared the coach a bit as to with his interchange. I'm not sure, but yeah, you would have thought if that scoreline, funny why he didn't get on. Yeah,
well, Xavier Willison, we did mention, it was what we're hearing, a broken forearm, which is such a shame for him. The coaches, I guess, had a really wonderful opportunity this season to see him grow as a player. I know Michael Maguire has given him lots of raps about how he's really stepped up this season. Yeah, starting to understand how he can influence a game on both sides of the ball. And when you talk about that starting forward pack of Payne Haas, Wilson and Patrick Carrigan, that can match any forward pack in the competition. We'll see how long Wilson's out for. You imagine that's 4 to 6 or 6 plus, so that's a big chunk, and probably adds to the reason why Patrick Carrigan probably have had more of a rest. But at the end of the day, the Brisbane Broncos have this dynamic outside backs. They have good halves. If their forward pack can throw some punches with the Melbourne Storm, the Brisbane Broncos, Canberra Raiders, the Brisbane Broncos got the attack to go on and do some things, but it's their defence and their long game mentality that they need to improve.
Well, we've always known about their talent. That's clearly always been there. So tonight it came to show against an understrength South. But the big test will come in the next few weeks, and they'll be aware of that. This is a good confidence booster for the Broncos, if nothing else.